Hello and welcome to the Dog Savant podcast. My name is Brett Endies. I'm a professional dog trainer. The reason for this podcast is to share my dog training experience with you if you are a dog owner seeking dog training and behavior advice, if you are a client seeking to supplement the work we are doing in the real world, and if you're just anyone interested in the life of a professional dog trainer, dog behavior, and anything else related, this podcast is for you. I always ask, please rate, review, share, subscribe. Very few do, but when you do, I really appreciate it. I do see them. And most importantly, that helps other people find this podcast, and it gives me incentive to continue to put some episodes out. This content that I provide helps real clients and dogs in the real world, so it will help you if you apply it. Okay, today I think is episode 96, so we're getting to 100 here. I'm not sure. I think I mentioned in previous podcasts if 100 is going to be the last one. I think if you go back in the whole catalog here of episodes, and if you're new, welcome. But you can go back and see a lot of them are based on different subjects and related to dog training, puppy training, problem behavior solving, the human-dog relationship, a little bit on the human condition that affects the human-dog relationship, or why dogs have behavior problems because of human intervention, and why human changes will help the dogs make changes. So there's a lot out there. I think I reiterate the same point many times over, actually. So if you're using this podcast, which I would assume it's mostly for information and to help you train your dog or obtain more information that helps you train your dog. I'm not trying to be so much entertaining here. I'm not a comedian. I'm not trying to just give you all these little zingers. But if you go through it, I think the information has been delivered enough times over that you probably can get enough that you want, in addition to all the supplemental content I have online, my show, The Untrainables, my YouTube channel where I've done web series and many videos in the past, and just little tidbits I'll put up on social media as well. All right, so with all that said, what are we going to talk about here in our maybe final days of the podcast? I talk about too much freedom too soon, the lack of structure, whether it be for puppies or adult dogs. And, some dogs do require more structure than others. That's just how it goes. That is the root cause for why most dogs have behavior problems, a disconnected relationship with their owners, and don't listen in real world situations when necessary. That's what it comes down to. Now, the hardest part of this is not the structure when the dogs see it implemented. That's what they're made to do. They're made to take direction, rules. They do, believe it or not, follow a hierarchy where a pack leader can guide them without them making even the most minimum of choices. You're the head of the pack. You have to dictate it. So if your dog is, I always talk about following, anticipating, reacting to, asking for, climbing all over you in the furniture, being in a constant excited state, overreacting, if you're indulging in more emotion than rules and structure and seeing your dog as a dog versus sometimes we interpret them as little humans, that's really, that has to change. The actual logistics of training, what to do when, how to be consistent, how to follow an order of operations to communicate commands or to teach new concepts or to phase out of bad habits, very straightforward. It's just conditioning and learning theory. But there's an instinct and a relational quality that if you're not acting the part and creating calmer associations in everyday transitions, which I always talk about, transitions are when life changes and when there's new events pending that dogs can get too caught up in, which is always the case when people call me for over 25 years as a dog trainer. They're going to be, reacting to greetings, movement around the house, anticipating the next, I know you're going to feed me in 5 minutes, and then they just jump the gun, getting accommodated, being spoiled, owners worrying and thinking too much about their dog's psychological well-being instead of letting them just be dogs and having a simple existence, which is what makes their quote-unquote psychological well-being feel happy, peace, secure, loved, whatever you want to do it. Downright a lot of owners just don't want their dogs not to like them, so that's what limits them to apply rules in training. And this is all, again, this is what it is, whether it be puppies just running around the house, peeing everywhere and biting everything that moves because they don't know how to have this less stimulated response to all the activity going on. And when you condition that into them and make that the norm, then they can handle the freedom. And of course, for potty training, I've talked about many episodes, when a dog is having access to options to go to the bathroom in the house, or even accommodated and taken out too soon, or asking owners to go to the bathroom every half hour when they can hold it for a longer stretch and develop some bathroom skills. That's again not putting a dog in a crate enough, just as simple as that, let alone the place training that we implement with young puppies. And when it's an adult dog and you've got these issues, whether it be because they've had too much freedom and no rule structure or direction in the everyday life's coming and goings, then you've got to be, then it's got to be a rehab-based way of providing the structure. But again, sometimes they get it just because they were living on the streets and they had to be more hypervigilant, or they weren't provided for, so they had to be more anxious about, getting their basic, shelter, food, water, attention accommodated. Most dogs I meet, they're getting that accommodated and then some. And the problem is there's no structure, there's no calmer choices being made so they can be more in this present state to get their needs met or attention and get that conditioned and rewarded. And the owners aren't acting the part, not treating their dogs like dogs. And that might be a politically incorrect statement to say a dog is a dog, but that's what they fare best as. They're not little humans. They're never going to evolve to think differently, although the purely positive movement that infiltrated dog training and the dog world as a whole, 15, 20 years ago or whatever, and it's getting worse and worse by the day because of how we're so narcissistic as a society. And I use that a lot in all the podcasts to describe how a lot of people, trainers, just members of society, they're just not seeing what's really going on, and it's all about feeling good. They want to project their emotions onto something versus seeing what's really going on and their role that's required for that, whether it be their dog, their spouse, their child, and just not being able to get over their own stuff. It's been encouraged in our culture, and it's really not helping dogs. It keeps me busy with cases and problem behavior cases, but it's also making me training the owners quite difficult because it's so against the grain of what, again, society encourages that I'm asking owners to do. They look online, it's like, oh, your poor little snowflake dog wants to choose what gender it is and what if it's a vegan or not, and it identifies as a cat, not a dog. Like, all this nonsense is thrown out there that people are putting out there like as if it's real, and then owners are like, well, that's an expert. Why, and I think that's what the world's been telling me. I should be thinking with my heart, not with my head. It doesn't work that way with dogs, and I find it and that's extreme. I'm being half funny, but even if it's just, oh, your dog only gets treats and you just don't talk about when they do something wrong, because that's abuse. You're gonna make them feel lesser than if you tell them to go to their place and stay there, or put them in a crate. It's like jail, and what did they do to you? And it's like that insane, weird, again, it's like it's based on the human ego. Not, dogs are a species. They have a way of seeing the world independent of humans, and because they coexist so intimately with us, we tend to infiltrate the reality of their existence. And that's something that has to be adjusted so you can even see what's going on, so you can make the right choices and disengage. I'm going to tell a story about one client I discontinued working with. It was a family. They had 3 dogs. First day I meet them, it's like right on camera. The dogs are on their body, licking their faces all over the furniture, non-stop movement, and they're all anxious, not happy dogs. All these people are just indulgent with them. And it was a hard sell just to get them to realize that, like, and anytime I refer, like, well, it's probably good for all your dogs, the guy would just deflect me back to the dog in question, who was so spoiled and had so little rule structure that it has to protect the house and the daughter, who's like in her 20s, from the adult male who runs the house. And every session, I was 3 sessions, I was like, we're done. And he couldn't see it. I'd send him long-winded messages explaining how, look, we got to get serious about this, and you're not understanding. It's more than just putting your dog in a place, approach it with treats. And that's a technique, right? If the dog's in a calmer place and someone's handling it and it doesn't get to react, or you correct the reactions, and in turn you reward when they don't react, they start making a better, clearer association of the person. But this dog was upstairs and would hear the person moving downstairs and react. So this dog's hypervigilance to me, and they just weren't getting it. And they were just coming back at me almost insultingly, like, are you sure you're not handling these cases? I'm pretty sure I'm not handling these cases. I think I have a track record of reviews and evidence in media out there that shows that this is what I specialize in. But nonetheless, I explained again why there was an issue still and why. And it just wasn't going to work. I even offer, and I do sometimes with people who are thinking like outside of how most clients are supposed to see this, and when they do see it the way that they're supposed to, it's successful for them and their dogs are happier. Come to one of our virtual classes we do, so you can see some other clients and how they're interacting with their dogs and me, and how what I tell them is not much different than what I tell you, but you're taking it so differently because you think your dogs are bad. And even if I had my daughter, I wouldn't let her just run the show and tell me what to do, and I would correct her. And it doesn't mean corporal punishment or yelling. It means, look, this is not going to work for any of us. This is not the best thing for you to do right now. Here's the alternative. I've shown you the alternative many times, which is what training is, giving them structure, commands, place, obedience when they are getting caught up in things big and little. Now, I've made it clear, I've implemented this consistent communication of what I'd like you to do as an alternative to these behaviors and your overreaction to life on many fronts, because you have to be thorough if you want to rehab a major issue like this, or most issues, right? Okay, now you're not, now I have to correct you. And that's where a training collar comes in, and you give them a correction with the leash, or you bring them back to the command or the spot you had them placed in, and you follow through until the job is done, and you make these commands more of the routine. And this is the issue. They were still letting the dogs all over the furniture, babying them, spoiling them, projecting a weak energy to their pets. And then when it was training time, the dog's like, are you kidding me? Too little, too late. I'm sorry. You can't just implement training and expect me to stay put and focus on a command when these commands don't even get me my basic needs met. But now you expect these commands to replace what I feel is a coping mechanism to keep me alive, which it's not real. Most dogs, that's all it is. It's a misinterpretation of an everyday thing that is safe, and they think it's not, and they've learned at some point to react in a way. Most of the times humans, when they intervened, if at all, was the wrong way. They pet the dog or they allowed it to happen without running good interference, and at times, yes, correcting the behavior, and they ended up with a major problem as the dog, it became just life. Now they're antisocial. Every time they're on a leash, they're reacting to dogs. And owners, again, we live in a society where everyone's so weak-minded, they can't just get with the uncomfortable. Yeah, your dog's a dog, and your dog and you will learn to live with the fact that your dog is a dog, and being treated more like an animal than an equal human will only put them in a position to be able to handle the life that you provide for them very well. And I said in the beginning of this podcast, but you think I lose my train of thought, some dogs require this more than others. It's sometimes a breed thing. In many cases, just that's the dog's personality or life history that caused them to be in a position, or just the wiring of this puppy needs more structure than maybe the other puppy you've had or you know of, right? So, as you see, it all comes down to the owners. We have to change for our dogs to change. And it's not just doing the training. We have to have a mindset and energy and attitude that is very what I see from many, many dog owners and the whole as a society, the way we're operating, where if we don't like what we hear or we don't believe in it, our feelings tell us otherwise, and that's real. It's not real. Most of the time, feelings are good. They help us survive when we were avoiding saber-toothed tigers and other cavemen to club us, but pretty much now it's all emotion to just try to protect our ego, because we mostly are safe and gonna eat our next meal and have shelter over our head at night. So we're using this as a way to almost become, like I said before, more narcissistic. Adam Carolla actually, and Dr. Drew, they're other podcasters, I'm sure if you listen to this you've heard of them. They articulate this so well and so clearly as far as how this is a society problem and it's getting worse. It's driving political beliefs and all this other crazy stuff in the world. And it's only I talk about in relation to the dog thing and how I see it affecting, and why the way of thinking differently is only going to help. And I can't imagine it not being able to help our world, how we raise our kids, how we connect better and understand our differences as humans in this country and worldwide. All right, so there's my little patriotic speech. But again, that's really what it comes down to, is humans have to see what's really going on. So you can actually just make the right steps and interpret and project the right energy and act the part, so your dog can see that you're seeing what they are seeing. A lot of C's there. versus, again, what we a lot of times interpret in our dogs and indulge in, and we can get away with it if we are in the clear with training and we find a balance between structure, leadership, and love, affection, and fun indulgences with our pets. Okay, this has been the Dog Savant Podcast, episode 96. I'm Brett Endies, and again, don't forget, please rate, review, share, subscribe. If I see more of it, maybe we will keep going past episode 100, but in the meantime, we might have 4 left in us. I don't know. Reach out to me, let me know. Oh, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, or just let me know how the podcast has helped you. Okay, have a great day. Train and love your dogs.